Hello everybody, my name is Lucy and welcome to the second part of our presentation, which we are doing with my colleague Natalia Arnal. Our presentation is being based on the radio recording from BBC Outlook called 15 Minutes to Save a Life. The goal of the second part of our presentation is to tell British Air Force pilot Michelle Ouellet's heroic rescue story of a badly wounded soldier in Iraq. My colleague Natalia has already talked to you about Flight Lieutenant Michelle Goodman, now Ouellet, who is at this time a retired Royal Air Force officer. Here is a short demonstration of the level of skills needed to be a pilot of the RAF. This is a RAF Chinook HC-4 helicopter display at Dunsfold Wings and Wheels in 2015. The combination of pilot skills and the amazing agility of the huge Chinook military transport helicopter are quite impressive. The Royal Air Force's mission is to support the objectives of the British Ministry of Defence, which are to provide the capabilities needed to ensure the security and defence of the United Kingdom and overseas territories. Michelle Goodman was the first and so far the only woman to be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for her actions while serving in Iraq almost 10 years ago. The distinguished, here she is with the Queen. The Distinguished Flying Cross is the third level military decoration awarded to personnel of the United Kingdom's Royal Air Force and other services, instituted for an act of valor and courage or devotion to duty whilst flying. At the time of the accident that is being talked in this podcast, Flight Lieutenant Michelle Goodman was serving in Iraq. The crew was in bed asleep when a loud knock came at the door. They had a call out. Michelle jumped up and dragged on her flying suit, grabbing her weapons. She ran out of the aircraft. Her crew was right behind her. The two of them went to the operations room with the medics to find out what was happening. They needed to know how many casualties there were and what their injuries were. It was all confusing as the site was still under fire. They came out to aircraft and all waited for the instructions to come through on the radio. Within a couple of minutes, they had learned that there was a seriously injured soldier with a shrapnel wound to the head in the center of Basra city. They only had 15 minutes to save his life. Michelle not only had to make a decision about whether to carry on with this risky operation as her life, but also a life of other 9 people that were on the aircraft with her was in danger. She had to think about them as well. They all agreed on taking the risk and proceeded to start the operation. As they took off, it was very dark and they were flying night vision goggles, but even with them the visibility was very poor. They headed to the city at a low level. At this height you not only have to worry about the enemy, but the wires and the masts that are at a similar height. The operation was very risky. None of the crew had seen or been into the landing site before, and the last time it had been used was several years ago. Michelle had to fly unpredictably in a zigzag or varying the speed she was flying at in order to avoid getting hit by the enemies firing at them. She kept calm but was not too overconfident. As she says, flying in combat is not something she could have trained for. On the approach, they could see several flashes around them. But chose to continue. At about 20 feet, the dust was so bad that Michelle, who was flying the aircraft, could not see the ground. She was now relying on Sergeant Steve Thomas, who was virtually hanging out of the helicopter, to guide her safely to the ground. The time it would have cost to go around and redo the approach was just not an option, as the casualty depended on the time they had. On the ground, the rockets were getting closer, but the medics are highly proficient at what they do, as she says, and within 5 minutes they were getting airborne again. As the helicopter rose above the rooftops, 4 rocket-propelled grenades were fired in their direction. Michelle had to put their defenses aids on, and as she did, so they shot out loads of flares. Because of this, the command who was watching this thought that something happened to the aircraft. Everybody in the command went silent, and then when the aircraft came back into vision, everybody was cheering and high-fiving. 15 minutes after the call-out, they had landed at the hospital, so the soldier could get the medical care that was vital for his survival. Michelle recognizes that it was not only her who saved the soldier, obviously, called Stephen, but the whole crew, and that without them this operation would not have been possible. Later on, when Michelle found out that Stephen was a quadriplegic as a result of the injuries in combat, Michelle felt a bit guilty of bringing him back, but also realized that it was not her decision to make. But after seeing his mum at the hospital, after seeing her face and how glad she was for saving her son, Michelle knew that it was the right choice. She also felt moved when Stephen thanked her for saving his life. Unfortunately, Michelle had a car accident shortly after receiving the Distinguished Flying Cross and has retired from Air Force since. And now every time she sees a helicopter flying above, she feels a little nostalgic. Well, what a wonderful story this was. Well, thank you very much for watching my presentation, and have a wonderful day. Bye.